Welcome to the 25th Shakuhachi Summer Camp of the Rockies. I'm David Kansuke Wheeler, and today we're going to be talking about melody, phrase, and breathing in Sankyoku music. Earlier, Christopher Yome Blaisdell talked a lot about the importance of literature and understanding literature, the milieu, the métier that goes with this music that came from the Edo period, most of it around 200 years old. Today, we're going to talk more about the music itself, the music that supports the lyrics. Like Christopher Yome Blaisdell, I really believe that the lyrics are key. The lyrics, for me, understanding the lyrics and a deep understanding of the lyrics, for me, creates sort of a launch pad for my imagination to do more with the music. It informs how I play the music. And I've never thought of it as programmatic, although there are some programmatic elements in Japanese music. The music in Sankyoku is definitely not so much programmatic as more abstract. We're not trying to say anything in particular, but there's a lot there. And so I love that. And when I'm aware of the lyrics and how they work, that makes my performance better. On the other hand, I really like the music itself. And that's everything about it. Phrases, how it swings, and just this concept of fushi. Fushi in Japanese means phrase. It also can mean scale, and it can mean different kinds of music and different parts of music. And in these classical pieces, for example, when my colleague Yoko Hiraoka is playing shamisen, she may change her tuning in the middle of the piece because that's called for. And now you're kind of playing in a new fushi, and that gives you a different feeling. An interesting aspect of that is the change is most notable exactly when it happens. After that, you kind of get back into the groove and it's not much of a change anymore. But those are the kinds of things I want to talk about today and the interplay of all these things together. So first of all, I'd like to ask Yoko to play the piece with me. And one thing about Yuga is it's sort of the iconic piece of Jiuta and of Jiuta, in that these pieces are characterized by having a tegoto. That's why they're called tegoto mono. Tegoto is the long instrumental interlude in the middle of them. And in order to have a long instrumental interlude in the middle, you have to have something on either side. And so that would be the mayuta, the beginning song, and then you get the tegoto, and then, well, let's go this way. Mayuta, tegoto, and then atouta. And in most of these pieces, you also get different things like maybe you got a little prelude before the song starts, or an ending part in the tegoto, which we call the chirashi, or an opening part of the tegoto called a makura. Well, the thing about Yugao, this piece I'm going to work with, which is also the piece that Chris addressed in his introduction to his book, his presentation of his book, is that it's just the essentials. It just has a mayuta, a tegoto, and an atouta. No other frills. So it keeps it real simple, and so it's an easy piece to sort of get what's happening. If you really wanted to go into harder detail, you could talk about ai no te, tiny interludes within song, which are more like melodic bridges between phrases of poetry, as opposed to a larger non-vocal interlude. Some of that, but mostly we're just playing together. So Yoko and I would like to play together for you. This is the story right there, and it's worth noting what the story says. It's about Prince Genji. And the interesting thing here is that everything in Japanese culture is connected. So even though this music was written in the early 1800s, it's poetry about something that was written about in the 10th century. So now that's about 1,000 years ago. In the 1800s, it was only 800 years ago. But still, the author, the composer of Yugao, Kikuoka, knew about this story. And he thought, I'll make a song about that story because he knows everyone in Japan that might be listening to his music knows about that story. And so he doesn't have to tell the whole story. He can make this abbreviated version of the story, and that'll be enough to trigger people's impressions of it and get the whole feeling of this amorous gathering between these two people who become lovers and what happens in the aftermath of that relationship. But that's the kind of thing that when I play these pieces, I want to be aware of those kinds of things too. And I'm not trying to become Japanese, but I do want to enjoy this music as, say, the composer was thinking he wanted to be enjoyed, and at the same time, enjoy the music for what the composer did to make it fun. So as far as that goes, keep that image in your mind. That's the opening scene of this song. When Genji, walking through sort of back in nowhere, discovers this hedge, and it's kind of something that catches his interest, and things start happening. Flowers get passed, a fan gets passed, etc. That's the feeling of the song. You go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, thanks, guys, for that applause from the universe. So, Yugo, this piece it's a really simple piece. It's just a mayuta, that introductory song, then a tegoto, that instrumental interlude, and then an interlude. And there are lots of things that happen in various parts of it, but what I want to look at first here is what's going on between the shakuhachi and the shamisen and their interplay. There's various ways that they interplay. Sometimes we're playing in unison. Sometimes we're echoing each other. The shamisen might lead or the shakuhachi might lead. Sometimes we're doing call and response. And sometimes in say an echo situation, different types happen. So first we're going to look at the very beginning of the mayuta, where Yoko is essentially echoing me with a little bit of embellishment. But I'll just start the beginning of the mayuta, and you can follow along on the notation. I think that's possible. See here. So the tegoto starts right here, and this is line 11 of the whole sheet music. And so right here you can see where we start out doing a little thing, and then the shamisen starts echoing the shakuhachi. Shakuhachi plays chi, shamisen echoes chi, etc. And some variation happens, but essentially that's what's happening. We'll play a little bit of this for you. Together like that. But so that's a call and response, not a call and response, but an echo. That part is the shamisen echoing the shakuhachi. And like I said, a little bit of embellishment, but essentially echoing. Once more, and you'll hear it, and I'll stop where it's specifically echoing. Just an echo. And now moving on a little farther, so now let's look over to a place where the shakuhachi does the shamisen. Now let's look at a place where the shamisen does a similar echo, but this time not just an echo, but an echo that's done, which is also intended to lead to the next note the shakuhachi is going to play. Right. So we'll go from right here at the bottom of this line, and then at the top of this line, Yoko's not simply playing tsu, even though in the shakuhachi notation all you see is that tsu no beni, and then her roll following my roll, her rino meni pitch following my rino meni, etc. But she's doing more than that.
最初の掛け合いからでいい？
今のところがちょうどいいです。
今のところがいいの？はい。
Shamisen with its pluck down and then a skui up is creating two notes that lead into the next note the shakuhachi plays, although it's an echo of the previous note. Listen to it once more. In that way, we're playing phrases and doing things like that, playing with each other at the same time. And in that particular phrase where we start doing this with the shamisen echoing the shakuhachi, there are 4 phrases there. They're each 4 notes long. The phrases start the tsunomeri down to the chi, then the re to the chi, and then the hinomeri to the ro. And each one has a different move, but makes it interesting in itself. And then the shakuhachi is doing a thing that without the shakuhachi would sound quite different. So I'm going to have Yoko play that same part without the shakuhachi. And it sounds something like this. Etc. And so in that way, without that, you kind of think, where's the downbeat? Where is the beat? Where's beat one? You get that feeling. But then the shakuhachi is, and actually, in all honesty, you hear the shakuhachi is playing the koto part as well. The koto would be playing what the shakuhachi is playing. So when Kikuoka wrote this, he was thinking about a koto player that's going to play the downbeats all the way through that thing. And those four phrases get set up, and then the koto and the shamisen are interacting. And today, I get to be the interactor with the shamisen, because Yoko, though she's a master of the koto as well, she can't play them both at once. So we'll go through that again and see how when the shakuhachi is added, it sounds different. On the chiri kara desu. So we're going to go from right here, and the shakuhachi will lead in and then get echoed by the shamisen. So that's how it works in the end. In a minute, I'm going to have you all do these things with me, so be prepared. So that's these simple phrases. This time I'll just play this solo. If I play that with just the shakuhachi, then and when I'm playing this music, I actually think seriously about those three phrases of four shakuhachi notes each. And I feel like that's how the music is put together and structured, and our awareness of this makes it easier and more interesting to play. Okay, and now let me see. I'll find a long unison. I'll show a long unison place where you just hear us playing together, and it's not so much that we're playing opposite each other or having some kind of a counterpoint or harmony, but more the different timbres of the different instruments. And the shamisen has seriously different timbre than the shakuhachi, and of course one is a string and one is a flute, so there are a lot of different things. But we'll go for a part that's その前の掛け合いが終わった後、そこから、その次から、その次から。Oh, well, I'm sorry. I should tell you all where we're going. It's right at the bottom of this line. It's from the two, 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 ro, ro, ro. So we'll play from two, 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 ro, ro. Places like that, we're just unison, playing with each other. But here again, you probably noticed in listening that the phrases are pretty simple and straightforward. And just so you would be sure you noticed, Kikuoka, the composer, repeated that phrase. I assume you heard that. Let me see a word. Well, he basically repeats the first section immediately after he's gone through about half a line. So the repeat starts. We started down here, and the repeat starts right here. And he uses this kan re to sort of build up and get into that repeat. Listen to that repeat again. 同じところから。同じところ。さっきの同じところ。チリリリンヤン。
ここからでいいですか？
That's where so. Okay, so we'll listen to this and be aware of how the repeat works. Mm. So, where we just played the same thing twice. In that one line, we essentially just played it and then repeated it. And that's not very rare in this music, but it doesn't happen all the time. But there are some pieces which really lean on that kind of concept. But these are different ways that melody is used or phrasing is used to create melody, and how the shakuhachi interacts with the string instruments. In this case, the lead instrument being the shamisen is a key thing to having fun playing these kind of things. Okay, let's do some of this together since we're all here with our shakuhachis and our notation. We're going to review the things I just talked about in reverse. 今の逆さでやっていくことを逆にこれから。Had a solution for me. Okay, now let's play that same section. We're going to go from, Yoko will lead us in by this little phrase that ends the kakei. Right, and then we'll go ahead through and play this down to right here. And as you're playing it, note that you're playing something and then repeating it. Okay, let's try that all together. Go ahead, Yoko. Thank you. Makes sense? So when you're playing these, for example, in the middle of that line, right before the repeat, we have this re. And whenever I play this re, I always realize, I'm thinking, yep, here comes the repeat, and I'll play that re, and that will always have a surdy after it. As opposed to simply, which might be okay, but I like the curvy things between the phrases that make them more sinusoid. Let's do it once more. Experience that. And this time, I'm just going to listen. So, looking forward to seeing how you all can have fun with this. So, Yoko, go ahead. Bring them in and take off. Nice. I bet you all wanted to keep playing, but this is my show. Okay, so that kind of thing, when you play that, next time you're practicing, think about that. Think about how you feel when you're playing that. Feeling those phrases and how they work is a key thing to the enjoyment of this kind of music. And since we're right here, why don't we all just move on forward to the next thing I want you to work on, which is where Yoko gives that double note echo that is also a lead into our next note. So we'll continue from where we stopped, right here, and we'll go on until we get to the next section. Okay, let's do this all together. Sorry. now we finish this pretty much unison section, and we go into an echo section. And so things change a little bit, but they also are still just the shamisen and the shakuhachi. So we'll go from a few measures before that echo section starts. Here we go. Good. Okay, now let's do that once more, and I want to hear how you all do it. Nice. You're doing better than I thought. And you guys out there are doing better than I thought too. Now we're going to go back up to the first thing we talked about in terms of how the ensemble between these two instruments works, and that's where the tegoto begins. Right here. And this, I want you to play along, and like I said, we're working on here where the shamisen is simply echoing what the shakuhachi, or in the original version, what the koto does. And we'll go from the beginning of tegoto. Go to there. That's in Yugo, that pattern with the shakuhachi leading and being echoed by the shamisen is here right at the beginning of the tegoto and then at the very end of the tegoto. And between, there's not much of that at all, except for that section we talked about earlier where the shamisen is doing the double note echo, which is also a pickup to the next note the shakuhachi will play. But at the very so these various ways of, within a melody where both instruments are playing, these kind of things can happen. And then the other one, of course, is the fun one, the kakeais. So let's play around with a little bit of that. This, where we just stopped, up comes a kakei, which is pretty simple and straightforward, but it's good to have. Let's go from Ima Tomato Tokoro. So Yoko will just come in. Those kind of places going into the kakei, in this case, it's very clear that it's kind of pulled up to start the kakei. In other situations, you just flow right into the kakei with no reservations. So we'll do the same part again, and everyone join in and have fun with it. So I'll go from before that. Kakei no hajimaru. Suso. Suso setsuman. So this time I'll show you where right now. You don't have to play it. So これ入れるかな。その前。2小節前。そうです、そこ。Okay, so we'll go from a few measures before that kakei starts right here. And you can all join in on this one and let's have some fun. Okay, let's do it again. Some people jumped the gun there. So this is actually, the shamisen plays, the shamisen goes, I'm sorry, it's kakega. Okay, so right here, what happens is the shamisen plays on chi-ri-rin, and then there's 2 beats before the shakuhachi comes in. Chi-rin, and the shakuhachi would then play its part like this. Yoko and I will show you. From the shamisen part. Bum, bum. And so, in a place like that, you saw there are different ways that the shamisen and the didn't know Minnesota Jim would join us. So, in this kakeai, the call and response, there are different ways that the shamisen and the shakuhachi interact in terms of the rhythm. For example, the first time through, the shamisen drops in that ri-ri-ro, and then you're just kind of floating for a few beats. Re-re-chi, the shakuhachi comes in. And the next time, the shamisen plays a complete 2-beat phrase, tsu-tsu-tsu-tsu-ro. Shakuhachi comes in immediately, changing the key also, by the way. Tsu-tsu-tsu-tsu-ro, tsu-ro, ri-ri-ri-chi. And then they just go back and forth. Ri-ri-ro, re-ri-chi. Ri-ri-ro, re-ri-chi. And the next one, they're on top of each other. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then they're all together. Ri-ri-ri-ro. So these different ways that we're interacting is what makes it interesting. That's why it's key to remember exactly how many beats are where they are. And then this fascinating satisfaction of something working well comes to you too. So it's like this from the kakea. One more time. So it's fascinating how this all comes together when you're playing attentively. That's a good example of a mistake. Who did that earlier? So these different rhythmic interactions are what make it interesting. So Yoko play from the beginning of the kakei. And then you take off on another unison performance section. So let's then move on to a later kakei. This is the one after the part we went through earlier, where Yoko is echoing with a double note echo. This will be the kakei right here. And we'll actually go from the double note echo just to get into it. And this kakei starts simple, just back and forth, same note, a whole bunch of rows. And this is a rare place in Shakuhachi music in Jiuta Sankyoku, where the shakuhachi is actually echoing the lead instrument. Usually, pieces are written so that the second instrument is leading in these sections, and the lead instrument is the follow. So in this case, the lead instrument is the shamisen. They're writing for shamisen and koto. So here the koto, and the shakuhachi plays with the koto in these situations, are the lead, are following in a rare case. We do that, and then the next kakei comes, and that kakei starts to really grow into long phrases. And we'll play a few of those phrases before we get to the end of this page. But kakeiからいきなりですか?
つつろろ。
ロロロ。
あ、ロロロの方。
ロロロ。
はい。
That's the one. Okay, so we'll go from the kakei where it's just ro 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 ro, and you'll see that where the shamisen leads the shakuhachi and the coloners, and the back and forth after that. Okay, and the shamisen is also leading this kakeai. So go ahead. Because that's the end of the piece of music I put up for everybody today. So a couple of things in there. Also, at the end of that back and forth between the shakuhachi and the shamisen, one beat each, you notice that we slow down. And that's another thing in ensemble playing is it's not so much following the instructions, it's most important to follow your partner. Follow your partner so much that they know you were following them. And then they'll start responding and let you lead them. Yoko, trust me, I hope. And so if I decide I want to speed up, she'll notice that because she's listening to me as much as I'm listening to her. But so let's just go from right. We'll go from the same place, from the same where the right here. And you can see before we get to the next kakeai, we slow down right there. Okay. Good. And so places like that, it's really valuable to sort of feather those slowdowns and speed ups. And you can do that, say you're playing a tsuromeri. It's how you use your meri komi right there that makes it effective. Dake o. Kake no ato. No ato. So we'll do just this section and watch one, how the shakuhachi is following the shamisen, and then two, down here, how we take advantage of the meri komi on the tsuromeri to lead in to the next kakeai. Go ahead, Yoko. But let's go from the rope, guys. All of a sudden, okay. Let's do it. Okay, so go ahead from the rope. No, go from the rope. Okay. Okay, Yoko, please go from the rope. Things like that, where if you take advantage of what the shakuhachi can do, you can enrich the overall performance. So let's do this section all together. One thing about this is the two big kakeai phrases on the last line of the music we're looking at are a key part of the fun aspect of Yugao. So we'll go from the top of this line where the shamisen is doing the two-note echo of the shakuhachi. Saっき掛け合いで紹介してた。Also, そこ確かにそこ一応そうチンチンでね。そこです。So that's where we'll go. So we'll go from the top of that line, right here, where it starts with tsuromeri, and I want you to hear what the shamisen plays in that long shamisen section in the kakeai, and then hear how the shakuhachi then responds to it. It's a good example of he's taking two phrases, pretty extended phrases, and then putting them up against each other. So we'll go from the top of that line.
2からです。
So, okay, here we go. Cool. Great. So those are different ways that just in the Tegoto of Yugao and just in the first half of the Tegoto of Yugao are things that, partially because Yugao is such an accessible piece, in my humble opinion, because one, its lyrics refer to the tale of Genji, which is not only will all Japanese that are in the cultural circles that would be hearing this music are aware of, but a lot of non-Japanese are aware of, or a lot of, certainly a lot of non-Japanese that have spent any time in Asian studies. The tale of Genji, or just in literature, the tale of Genji being sometimes referred to as the first actual true novel in the history of literature. And it's certainly one of the longest. Just the chapter Yugao is like a book in itself. And that whole story then in this piece is condensed down to just a few stanzas of poetry, but enough to evoke memories of the whole thing. So you have that. And then Kikuoka made it just this really simple Tegoto mono that anyone can get into. And by doing that, he created this platform that was just ideal for me. I gotta thank Kikuoka for way back in the early 19th century coming up with this piece, because it's a perfect thing for me to use to talk to you all about how Shakuhachi can have fun playing Jiyuta. There'll be more about this kind of stuff in my upcoming class. And if there's anything in particular anyone wants to ask me, if there's anything from a chat screen or anything from my studio audience here, any questions you have or comments you have, I'm welcome to entertain them. So here I am back with you. And like I said, if there are any questions anyone has or any comments, anything in the chat, I'm happy to take a look at that.
I have a question for Yoko.
Yes, you have a question? For Yoko, yes.
Going back to your comments about the lyrics and how important they are, the singing is so beautiful, lyrical. I'm just wondering, is it something that normal, like Japanese people would understand as you're singing, or is it so stylized that it's hard to understand?
Usually I would say, yeah, it's a way to stylize, prolonging the vowels, the usual way of melodramatic singing. People who do not know anything about this piece, they would need a song text card to follow it.
Yeah, and they generally didn't have subtitles back then on the screens. Oh wait, they didn't have the screens either. And that's another reason why Kikuoka would choose a theme that is so universal that everyone would get it. And once you start hearing it, or a lot of these are part of a repertory musical canon, so that if you're in that world, you're talking about these pieces all the time. And since the lyrics are very short, you can memorize them in a listen or two if you're Japanese. And then when she sings the opening lyrics, there's no question. She starts to sing a su, and immediately you know what's going to come. But that is a good question, because that is something that modern Japanese have no clue about. So anyone here today that has come this far with us already is much deeper into this than any modern Japanese who does not do this music. It's a interesting world. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for joining me about phrase and learning about phrase and melody, and there's lots more to come in future classes.